Think about the very second when two people stop talking to each other. In that moment, the air around them does not just go silent. It actually turns into something completely different. You can think of it like a sudden and heavy change in the gravity that holds your whole relationship together. It is not like a big and loud fight where people are shouting at the top of their lungs. And it is not a sudden breakup that happens in a tiny flash of time. Instead, it is a quiet and very deep shift in how things are built between you. It changes the way both of you look at each other and how you think about each other in your hearts. When the little dings on your phone, the quick hello messages, and the casual checking and stop happening, a big and empty space is left behind. If you do not understand what is happening during this time, and you act out of fear or worry, you might lose much more than just her attention. You could actually lose your standing, which is the deep respect and the high value she has for you in her heart. In this quiet time, the strength she sees in you is either built up or it is broken down, and it all depends on how you act when you are not talking. For most men, this change starts a very fast and very strong feeling of worry deep inside. It is that restless and itchy feeling where you find yourself looking at your phone every couple of minutes just to see if you miss something. You might find yourself reading your old text messages over and over again, trying to see if you said something wrong or if you made a little mistake. Your mind starts spinning with many what-if stories. You start to worry that she is already moving on to someone else or that she has simply forgotten that you exist at all. This feeling of panic is like a trap because it makes you want to do something fast and impulsive just to make that bad feeling go away. However, you have to understand that this silence is not just an empty hole, and it is a sign that you have failed. It is actually a very strong way for the mind to hit a reset button. It clears away all the busy noise of your daily habits, and it makes both of you truly feel what it is like when the other person is not there. This reset creates a special and rare chance to think clearly. It is a chance that simply does not exist when you are talking every single day. When you are always in touch, neither of you has the room or the time to actually miss the other person. You don't have the space to look at the relationship for what it really is. The silence acts like a mirror that both of you have to look into. She starts to understand what her life feels like without your warmth and your energy. At the same time, you start to see if your own happiness is too tied up in her telling you that you are okay. But there is one very important thing to remember. That clear way of seeing only helps you if you can stay calm and keep your feet on the iuzi chiupa ground. If you understand how the heart and the mind work under the surface, you will see that this quiet time is actually the loudest part of your connection. It is the time when she decides if having you around is something she truly loves or if it was just something she was used to. When you are always there, always the first one to send a text, always checking in to see how she is, and always ready to answer her back in a few seconds, you become a sure thing in her life. Now, being someone she can count on sounds like a very good thing, but in the world of how people feel attracted to each other, being a total sure thing can sometimes make someone lose interest. Being safe and predictable can be very cozy and comfortable, but those things do not capture a person's imagination or make them feel excited. Our minds are naturally built to pay the most attention to things that are just a little bit out of reach or things that we can't always predict. We tend to put the highest value on things that feel rare or special, mostly because we don't have to worry about losing things that are always standing right in front of us. When you are always a constant presence in her life, she never has to wonder about you. And if she never has to wonder about you, it means she doesn't have to think about you when you aren't there. By taking a step back and stopping the constant flow of messages and calls, you bring a healthy kind of tension back into the relationship. It is very important to understand that this tension is not the same thing as a fight or a mean argument. Instead, it is like a psychological spark, where the feeling of being attracted to someone is either built back up or lost forever. This silence works like a stress test for the bond between you. If the only reason you two were even talking was because you were doing all of the work and making all the effort, then the silence will show that right away. However, if there was a real and true connection between you both, your sudden absence does something very powerful. It makes her feel much more curious about you. It moves her from just sitting back and watching to taking an active part in the relationship because she finally has the room she needs to miss you. The biggest mistake men often make is thinking that this quiet time means she is rejecting them personally. While a man might look at the silence and think it means she doesn't care anymore, a woman often uses that same silence as a way to gather information. She uses it to judge how strong the connection really is. When the normal way you give her attention breaks, she has to start asking herself questions she never had to think about before. She starts to wonder things like, why hasn't he reached out today? Is he finally moving away from me? Is he doing okay? Or has he found someone else to talk to? This talk she has with herself inside her own head is where her feelings for you actually start to grow deeper. By giving her the room to ask these questions, you are letting her see your value on her own terms. You aren't trying to force her to see it through a phone screen or by telling her. The main point of this way of acting is not about playing games or trying to trick anyone. It is about what experts call emotional positioning. You can think of it as the difference between being a strong anchor that stays put in a storm and being a little leaf that blows around whenever the wind moves. In every time of silence, there's an unspoken test to see who can handle not knowing what is going to happen next. Usually, the person who gets worried or anxious first is the one who loses their place because they lose control over their own feelings. When you feel that wave of fear and you break the silence just to make yourself feel a little bit better, you are sending a very loud message without saying a single word. You are basically telling her that you are not okay unless she tells you that you are okay. This shows her that your happiness depends on her instead of being something you have inside yourself. Real power in a relationship comes from being able to stay calm and steady when the lines of communication go quiet. When you can just exist in that space without rushing to try and fix it, you are telling her something very attractive. You are saying that your whole world does not fall apart just because you aren't talking every minute. This is not about trying to act tough or trying to hurt her by ignoring her on purpose. It is about having enough respect for yourself to give her the space she needs while you keep living your own life. If you try to use silence as a weapon to make her feel bad or to force her to react, it will almost always turn out poorly for you. You cannot fake being emotionally grown up for very long. Most women are very good at feeling when silence is being used to trick them, versus when it is a sign of a man who is simply comfortable and secure in who he is. At the end of the day, your goal during this quiet time is to watch what happens instead of just reacting to it. This period of quiet is like a tool that shows you the true foundation of your relationship. If you are always trying to win or get her back, you aren't really looking at the truth of how things are between you. By being okay with the quiet, you give yourself the clear vision to see if the two of you actually fit together when you aren't distracted by phones and apps. It is about having the inner strength to wait and see what happens when you take the pressure off. This kind of steady presence is very rare to find, and it is exactly what makes a man who knows his worth different from everyone else who is begging for attention. When people stop talking, the human brain naturally hates having an empty hole to deal with. It feels a biological need to fill in the blank spots with stories. While you are staying silent, her mind is not just sitting there doing nothing. It is busy trying to put together the story of who you are, because she isn't getting any new texts or calls from you. She starts to look through all the old things she knows about you. She starts replaying the last few times you were together. She thinks about the sound of your voice, the way you timed your messages, and the way you looked at her. In this time, when you aren't there, the small clues from how you acted in the past become much louder and more important. Things she might have ignored when you were always around, like how reliable you were or a special joke you both shared, suddenly stand out to her. She begins to realize that those small, steady parts of you weren't just background noise. They were the very things she misses the most right now. However, this silence doesn't only work on her. It acts as a very strong mirror for you, too. It forces you to look at yourself and answer a very tough question. You have to ask if your feeling of being worth something is truly yours, or if it is something you have given to her to hold for you. This time is a very honest test of where your roots are planted. If you feel your confidence falling apart because your phone isn't vibrating, it is a sign that your value was tied to her sending a reply instead of being tied to your own life and your own heart. This is the part where most men fail because they can't handle what they see when they look in that mirror. They start searching for answers and trying to force a talk just to prove to themselves that they still matter to her. But a man who truly knows what he is worth does not need to chase a specific result. He knows that things will work out the way they should if he remains steady and calm. In the end, you should realize that your ability to stay still is actually your most powerful way of communicating when you do not rush to fill the empty space with just checking in text or worried questions. You are speaking a language of very high confidence. You are showing her, and you are showing yourself that you are a man who can handle being unsure without losing your cool. Men who truly value themselves are not fueled by the little hit of happiness that comes from a phone notification. They are fueled by their own goals, their own work, and their own schedule. By staying focused on your own life during this quiet time, you send out an energy of strength that 1,000 long, worried texts could never match. You aren't just sitting around waiting for her. You are out living your life. And that independence is exactly what makes you feel important and heavy, even when you aren't in the room. The real turning point happens when the silence stops being just a little break and starts becoming a check on how emotions are traded between you. Up until this point, your presence was just a given thing. It was free and it was always there. But once you stop that supply of attention, she is forced to think about the real value of what she has lost. She has to compare it to the reality of you not being there. This is not a logical math problem she does in her head. It is a feeling she gets deep in her gut, because you aren't there to fill up her day with good morning texts or constant check-ins. She is finally left all alone with her own feelings, without the pressure of you always pushing for a response. She finally has the room to notice the hole you left behind. She starts to see the big difference between the days when you were there and the quiet of her life now. And that difference is exactly where real desire starts to grow back. It is very important to understand that this is the main moment where everything changes. Your absence is not a test made to trick her. It is actually a test of your own character and who you are as a person. If you can stay independent and patient during this time, you move from being just an option to being someone who is truly magnetic. When you are constantly sending messages, you are just a little notification on a screen, something she can deal with whenever she feels like it. But when you are silent and you are taking care of yourself, you stop taking up space in her phone and you start taking up space in her mind. You become a mystery that she wants to solve and a person she has to think about. This change is vital because thinking about someone is the first step toward wanting to be with them. When she has to think about you to find you, she starts to create a version of you in her head that she truly wants to be near. In the end, this whole phase proves that attraction is not built on the things you say. It is built on the space you leave between your words. Many men think they can just talk a woman into liking them more, but the truth is that attraction actually grows in the spaces where you are not there. By holding your ground and staying steady, you allow her to grow a desire that comes from her own heart. It is a feeling that she creates herself rather than just a reaction to your latest text message. When she starts wanting to see you while things are quiet, that desire is much more powerful. It is based on her own realization of what you are worth. You have moved from chasing her for a response to becoming a person she feels a real deep need to reconnect with. When this time of silence comes to its natural end, it brings the truth with it. It is important to know that silence all by itself does not magically make love appear if it wasn't there before. Instead, it acts like a filter that washes away all the distractions. It shows the real truth of the connection. It shows who is truly steady and who is just acting out of fear or a need to control things. By stopping the constant noise of calls and texts, you stop trying to force things to happen. You finally let the natural rhythm of attraction have some room to breathe. You are giving the relationship the space it needs to either grow much stronger or to show you that it wasn't meant to last. If you handle this quiet time like a grown-up, you aren't just acting. You are making the relationship match the real world. You are no longer chasing after something that isn't there or trying to win her back by being annoying. Instead, you are learning the quiet language of presence. You have learned that in the world of true attraction, the most powerful move you can make is not the loudest one. It is not a desperate phone call or a long letter explaining your feelings. The most powerful move is actually the quietest one. It is the ability to wait, to watch, and to stay completely centered in your own life while the other person figures out how they feel. When the silence finally breaks and she reaches out to you, the energy of that talk will be totally different. It won't feel like more of the same old lopsided routine. Because you stayed strong and didn't fall apart when things were unsure, you have earned a new level of respect that you cannot buy. She will feel that you are a man who respects himself enough not to beg for her time. That realization changes everything about how she sees you. You have proven with your actions, and by the fact that you didn't act out of fear, that you are a solid, independent person. This new respect becomes the floor for a much stronger and much more real connection as you move forward together. True connection is built on a foundation of safety and mutual respect. And by showing her that you can handle the quiet with grace, you are inviting her into a partnership that is based on choice, not habit. This journey through silence is one of the most difficult things you will do, but it is also one of the most rewarding because it brings you closer to your true self. When you are no longer defined by someone else's response, you become a person who can truly lead, love, and live with an open heart. This is the path to a relationship that isn't just a cycle of anxiety, but a beautiful dance of two independent people who choose to be together every single day. So the next time the silence feels heavy, remember that it is not a wall, but a bridge to a better version of yourself and a more honest connection. Keep your head high, stay busy with the things that matter to you, and trust that the truth will always find its way home. You are strong enough to wait, you are wise enough to watch, and you are valuable enough to be missed. In the deep quiet of the world, your silence is not a void, but a powerful statement of who you are. It tells a story of a man who knows his worth and doesn't need to shout it from the rooftops. It tells her that you are here. You are whole, and you are ready for a love that is real. As you move through your day, carry this quiet strength with you. Let it be your anchor when things feel unsure and your light when the way ahead seems dim. You are building something lasting, something deep, and something that will stand the test of time because it is built on the truth of who you are when nobody is watching. This is the real power of the quiet shift. And it is the key to a heart that is truly respected and truly loved.